My fiancée and her parents humiliated my late mother during the rehearsal dinner, and I ended the wedding on the spot, in front of everyone, without hesitation. I'm 35, and until not long ago, I was engaged to Camilla. I genuinely believed she was the one, the person I'd grow old with. We met about 5 years back at a cookout through some friends we both knew. She had this easy smile, cracked jokes like a pro, and we hit it off right away. When I popped the question a year ago, it felt right. No doubts. But I wasn't just signing up to marry Camilla, I was also joining her family. Her parents, Walter and Gloria, are the type who always need to be the loudest voices in the room. They thrive on attention, always have something to say, and they don't exactly hold back. At first, I chalked it up to just being their style. But over time, it became clear they weren't just outgoing. They were entitled. That entitlement seeped into pretty much everything they did. Before I get into the mess that happened, I need to tell you about my mom. Her name was Helen. Out of everyone I've ever met, no one came close to her kindness. She was simply the best of us. She passed away a year ago after 4 incredibly tough years battling cancer. Watching her go through that fight while still putting others ahead of herself, that changed me. She showed me what it means to be kind, to give without expecting anything, and to stand up for what matters. She wasn't just my support system, she was a lifeline, not just for me, but for a lot of people. Mom had this quiet way of helping. She'd step in and lend a hand without ever making anyone feel like they owed her something. She just did what needed to be done, no fuss. And that included helping Camilla's family. Walter and Gloria owe my mom more than they'd probably ever admit. But the way they talk about her now, you'd never guess. When Camilla met my mom for the first time, everything seemed fine on the surface. Mom liked her, she even told me so. And Camilla acted polite enough. But as things got more serious between us, it became obvious that Camilla and my mom didn't really click. There wasn't any blow-up or drama, it was more subtle. Camilla would say things like my mom was too involved, or that she tried too hard. It rubbed me the wrong way, but I figured it was just her adjusting to a new family dynamic. What bothered me more was knowing just how much my mom had done for Camilla's family over the years. Their restaurant was on the verge of going under at one point, and my mom stepped in. She co-signed a loan when no one else would. She believed in them. She even helped them get their finances in order and build a plan to turn things around. And it worked. They stayed in business because of her. Later on, when the industrial oven in their kitchen broke and they couldn't afford a new one, Mom covered the cost, paid for it herself. She never once asked for that money back, even though she needed it for her own cancer treatments. That's just the kind of woman she was. And not once, not Walter, not Gloria, gave her a proper thank you. Sure, they'd say thanks in passing, but never with any real gratitude. Mom didn't care. She wasn't doing it for the praise. She just wanted to help. Losing her wrecked me. She was everything to me. Camilla was there, or at least, she seemed to be. But looking back, a lot of her support was more surface level than real. She'd say stuff like, "Your mom wouldn't want you stuck in grief," or "You need to move on." Maybe there was truth in that, but it felt more like brushing my feelings aside than offering comfort. As the wedding got closer, the red flags started piling up. Camilla would shut down any mention of my mom and wedding plans. I wanted to include a small tribute during our vows, just something simple. Camilla wrinkled her nose and said, "But won't that just make people feel sad? A wedding's supposed to be a celebration." I let it go to avoid a fight, but it stuck with me. Around 6 weeks before the big day, the whole thing began to come apart at the seams. Walter and Gloria offered to host the rehearsal dinner at this upscale restaurant they had some connection to. At first, I thought it was a kind gesture. Maybe they were trying to make peace, put the past behind us. I even told myself, hey, maybe this is them stepping up and doing something decent. But here's the thing, they didn't just offer to host it. They went out of their way to let everyone know how generous they were being. Gloria kept dropping lines like, "We've worked so hard to make this rehearsal dinner special. It's going to be the event of the year." As the day got closer, Walter and Gloria's true selves really started showing. Every time I spoke to them, it turned into a passive-aggressive exchange. When I tried confirming the guest list, Gloria just rolled her eyes and said, "Relax, Noah. We've got it under control. You just show up and enjoy yourself." It might seem like a minor thing, but it really stuck with me. I mean, wasn't this supposed to be a night about us? Shouldn't Camilla and I have had a say in who was actually on the guest list? But Gloria had taken control of everything, right down to the menu. She went on and on about how they were crafting this elevated culinary experience, whatever that meant. Every time she talked about it, She managed to slip in some little dig about my roots. "Oh, the chef's making something really special. Not the kind of thing you'd find back home, Noah." That was her favorite move, reminding me I came from a place she clearly thought was beneath her. I grew up in a quiet, working-class town, and Gloria never let me forget it. I kept telling myself to let it slide. It was one night. I could get through it. But it wasn't just about dinner. It was the pattern. They made me feel like I didn't belong. Like I'd somehow tricked Camilla into being with me. And I should just be grateful. And Camilla never once pushed back. If anything, she played along, laughed at their comments, changed the subject when I brought it up. Just a few days before the rehearsal dinner, something happened that should have made me hit pause right then and there. Camilla and I were over at her parents' place, finalizing the wedding details. Gloria was treating it like a production, seating charts, color schemes, floral centerpieces, the whole nine. I casually mentioned swapping out the centerpieces for something simpler, something my mom would have appreciated. Gloria didn't even glance up. "Oh, Helen had unique taste," she said. "But this is Camilla's day. Let's keep things current." I just stood there, stunned. It was subtle, but it hit me hard. Camilla didn't say a word. She just sat there scrolling through her phone like she hadn't heard a thing. I swallowed it again. I was just avoiding the truth. They didn't respect me or my mom. The night of the rehearsal dinner finally rolled around, and the tension was already hanging in the air before we even got out of the car. Camilla and I rode there together. I tried to make conversation, crack a few jokes. She barely looked up from her phone. When I asked if she was excited, she said, "It's just a dinner, Noah. Don't overthink it." That dinner felt like anything but casual. We pulled up to the place, and Walter and Gloria were already in full performance mode. Walter stood by the front, greeting people like a host at a gala. Gloria was flitting around giving directions to the staff. It felt less like a family event and more like a PR stunt. The restaurant was extravagant, chandeliers, white table settings, the whole show. It screamed status. I felt like I didn't belong in the room. I couldn't shake the feeling that this whole night wasn't about us at all. It was a flex, Walter and Gloria's way of showing off. And then came the speeches. Walter was first. He took the mic like he was delivering a quarterly earnings report, cleared his throat, looked out at the room, and said, "Tonight is about bringing two families together, our Camilla, and of course, Noah." He said my name like it had dirt on it. I tried to stay composed, but each sentence he spoke was a disguised insult. He talked about how Camilla had always been their shining star, always ambitious and focused. And now, she was marrying someone who, quote, would help her stay grounded. I wasn't imagining it. He smirked as he said it, and a few people even laughed. I could feel my dad and sister stiffen across the table, and I don't blame them. Gloria was up next. She walked to the microphone like she was walking onto a stage. Her speech started normal enough. She praised Camilla, talked about her being a dream daughter, how thrilled she was about the wedding. But soon, the digs began. She said how Camilla deserved nothing but the best in life. How it was lucky she had so much patience, because she'd already taught Noah so much. I just stared at her, trying to figure out what exactly Camilla had taught me. How to put up with this. Then Gloria looked straight at me and said, "We're just thrilled to welcome you to the family, Noah. It'll be nice to have someone who's not afraid of a little hard work, right?" She laughed. Her relatives laughed. And Camilla laughed right along with them. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more insulting, Walter got up to speak again. He tapped his glass with a spoon and said, "Before we wrap up, I want to recognize someone who's no longer with us but had a big influence on the man Noah is today, his mother, Helen." For a split second, I thought, maybe, he was about to say something kind, something respectful. Nope, he went on. Helen really was something else. Always found a way to insert herself, didn't she? Always had an opinion about how things should be done. Then he laughed like he'd just told a charming anecdote. Gloria chimed in with, "Oh, she definitely had strong opinions. Remember how she always tried to help, even when no one asked?" My stomach dropped. They were talking about my mother like she was some meddling neighbor who didn't know how to mind her own business. Walter wasn't done. "But seriously," he said, holding up his wine glass, "Helen was generous. Helped us out more than we probably needed, if I'm being honest." Then he winked, like they were all in on the joke. That was it. My face burned, and I could feel my fist clench under the table. I glanced at Camilla, expecting her to speak up, to shut it down. But instead, she laughed, like it was no big deal. "Oh, Dad, stop," she said, brushing it off like they'd just teased me about forgetting to put the cap back on the toothpaste. But this wasn't harmless teasing. They were disrespecting my mom, mocking her memory, right there in front of everyone. And Camilla didn't seem to care. What made it worse was how proud Walter and Gloria looked, like they thought they were charming the room. But when I looked around, I could tell people weren't laughing. They were uncomfortable. Walter finally sat back down, and the room awkwardly tried to reset. People clinked their glasses, poked at their desserts, and avoided eye contact. The atmosphere had already turned sour. Camilla leaned over and whispered, "You okay?" I didn't even look at her. I just nodded, jaw locked so tight I thought I might crack a molar. Then Gloria walked over to our table. She had that fake sweet tone people use when they're pretending to be innocent. "Noah," she said, all smiles, "I hope you weren't offended. Walter and I were just trying to lighten the mood." That's when something inside me snapped. I stood up. My chair dragged loud across the floor, echoing through the restaurant like a warning bell. The whole place went silent, like someone had hit pause on reality. Everyone stared, but I didn't care. I was burning up inside, but I knew I had to say something. I couldn't let this go. The way they talked about my mom all night, and now this phony apology? That was the final straw. "Are you serious right now?" I asked, my voice low, but shaking with anger. Gloria looked stunned, like she hadn't expected me to actually speak up. Walter blinked slowly, like he was annoyed I'd interrupted his drink. "Let me get this straight," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You stood up here all night making cheap shots at my mom, the woman who went out of her way to help your family when no one else would, and now you're saying it was just a joke? That I'm supposed to laugh along?" Walter leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, smug as ever. "Relax, Noah. You're overreacting. It was just a little humor." "Humor?" I shot back. "You called her overbearing. You said she did too much. You took everything generous and selfless about her and turned it into a punchline. How the hell is that funny?" The tension in the room could have split concrete. I caught a few of Camilla's cousins staring down at their plates. They looked as miserable as I felt. My dad looked like he was ready to throw a chair across the room, and my sister, arms crossed, was glaring daggers at Gloria. Gloria let out this fake laugh. "Oh, Noah, don't be so sensitive. We were just sharing stories. Everyone knows Helen liked to take control." "Take control?" I snapped. "She saved your business. She paid for your new oven and helped with your patio. She gave everything she could, and you stand up here and mock her like she was some busybody? That's how you repay her?" Walter sat up straight, the smug look dropping. "All right, that's enough," he said, trying to sound in charge. "We didn't mean anything by it, but if you're going to throw a tantrum over a few comments, maybe you're not ready for marriage." That line, right there, told me everything I needed to know. Camilla finally spoke up, reaching for my arm. "Noah, can we just go outside and talk?" I pulled away. "No, Camilla, we can't. Not until your parents understand just how out of line they were." Gloria let out an exaggerated sigh, like she was the one who had to suffer through something. "Noah, this is supposed to be a joyful evening," she said. "You're ruining it for everyone." I looked straight at her. "I'm ruining it? You trashed my mom's memory in front of a room full of people, and you think I'm the problem?" Then I turned to Camilla. "And you? You sat there and let it happen." Her face went pale. Then Walter stood up, clearly done with the whole thing. "If you're that offended, Noah, maybe you should just leave." He gestured toward the door like he was throwing me out of some country club. For a second, I considered it. I thought about walking out and leaving them to their fancy dinner and smug speeches. But then I looked around. At my dad. At my sister. At the handful of people who actually showed up to support me. They were watching, waiting. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't going to just sit there and let Walter and Gloria sweep it under the rug. Not this time. "No," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not leaving. Not until you understand exactly what you did." Walter looked like he was about to interrupt, but I cut him off before he got the chance. "You paint my mom like she was some nosy control freak, but if it weren't for her, this restaurant you're so proud of wouldn't even be standing. She never did it for recognition or thanks. She helped because that's the kind of person she was. And now you've reduced her to some punchline in a speech you thought was clever? It's beyond disrespectful. It's disgusting. You could have heard a pin drop." Even Walter looked rattled for a second, like the weight of what I just said threw him off balance. Gloria opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Camilla just sat there, staring down at the table like she wanted to disappear. Walter finally muttered, "We didn't mean it that way." "It's not about your intention," I replied. "It's about how it landed." You don't get to rewrite who my mother was just because it suits your version of things. She deserved better. And honestly, so do I. I took a step back and grabbed my jacket. You want me to leave? Fine. But don't expect me to come back. That was it. My dad stood up right away, ready to walk out beside me. My sister grabbed her purse, shot Gloria one last sharp look, and followed. A few of my friends stood too, uncertain, but clearly on my side. Camilla called after me. Noah, wait. But I didn't stop. I pushed open the door and walked out, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. My face was burning, but I kept my head up. Outside, my dad put a hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing, he said softly. Your mom would have been proud of you. I nodded, but pride wasn't what I felt. I was furious, sure, hurt and disappointed, but mostly I felt like something I thought was real had just shattered. And I realized something right then. If Camilla couldn't stand up for me, or for the woman who helped build her family back up, then maybe she wasn't who I thought she was. At first, I thought walking out was enough. I figured I'd made my point. But the more I thought about it, the more I knew they'd twist the story. Say I overreacted. Say I was emotional, dramatic. Make me the bad guy. No, I couldn't let them own the narrative. I took a breath and turned to my dad. I need to go back in. What? My sister asked, startled. Why? You don't owe them a thing. I know, I said, but I'm not walking away without finishing this. They need to hear it straight from me. My dad gave me a quiet nod. If that's what you need to do, we're with you. I shook my head. I have to do this by myself. My sister looked like she wanted to argue, but she held it in. I turned around and walked back toward the restaurant. My stomach was in knots, but my head was clear. I wasn't going back in there to cause another fight. I was going back to close the door for good. As I stepped inside, the whispers started again. People glanced toward the entrance, clearly surprised I'd returned. Camilla was still standing by the table, pale and wide-eyed. When she saw me, she started toward me. Noah, what are you doing? I didn't answer her. I walked straight to the front of the room, where Walter and Gloria were still seated, looking smug, like they'd already moved on. Walter raised his eyebrows. Gloria smiled with that same fake sweetness she'd worn all night. Back so soon? Walter said, voice laced with sarcasm. I didn't even look at him. I turned to face the crowd. Excuse me, everyone, I said loud enough for the entire room to hear. The room went quiet instantly. All the side conversation stopped. Even the servers froze. I just have one last thing to say. I looked over at Camilla. She was frozen in place, hands clasped tightly in front of her like she didn't know what to do. I know this probably isn't what anyone expected to hear tonight, I continued. But after what's happened, I'm not waiting until tomorrow to say it. I paused, then said the words clearly and without hesitation. The wedding is off. Gasps. A few people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Chairs scraped the floor as people turned to one another in shock. Camilla's hand flew to her mouth. Noah, no, she whispered. I raised my hand, silencing her. The room was silent again, completely still. This isn't just about tonight, I said. It's about what kind of family I was about to marry into. A family that mocks the people I love. That sees my background as something to be ashamed of. That thinks respect is optional. Walter finally spoke up. You're blowing this out of proportion, kid. You're walking away from something good for nothing. Nothing? I said. You think mocking my mother's memory is nothing? You think disrespecting me from day one is nothing? No, Walter. The real mistake would be going through with this wedding and tying myself to a family that never truly saw me as worthy. Gloria looked like she might cry, but whether it was shame or just embarrassment, I couldn't tell. Noah, she said, let's not do anything final tonight. Emotions are high. We can talk in the morning. No, I said, firm and clear. There's nothing left to talk about. This is over. Then I turned to Camilla. Her eyes were brimming with tears. She looked totally lost, somewhere between heartbreak and panic. I gave her one last look. I hope someday you realize what you let happen. And with that, I walked away. Walking out of that restaurant felt like tearing off a bandage that had been stuck on too long. Yeah, it stung. But the main thing I felt was relief. It was finally done. No more wedding planning. No more trying to win over people who looked down on me. No more pretending I was okay being treated like an afterthought in a family I was supposed to marry into. But the next morning, the real fallout began. I woke up to a phone full of messages, dozens and dozens of them. Camilla had blown up my inbox. Her parents had messaged too. Even some of her extended family, people I'd barely spoken to, felt the need to chime in. Camilla's texts were long and frantic. Apologies. Begging. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please just talk to me. Walter's tone is completely different. His messages were full of anger and blame. You humiliated us in front of everyone. You'll regret this. And Gloria played the victim card. I can't believe you would do this to Camilla. She didn't deserve that scene. I didn't respond to a single one. By early afternoon, Camilla showed up at my place. I knew she would. I'd been waiting for it, dreading it. But when I saw her standing at my door, it still hit me like a punch to the chest. She looked wrecked, red eyes, makeup smudged, still wearing the same dress from the night before like she hadn't even gone home to change. Noah, she said, her voice hoarse, can we please talk? I crossed my arms and leaned against the doorframe. Talk about what? I said everything I needed to last night. She flinched. But she didn't leave. I know you're hurt. And I know I messed up. But we can fix this. We can work through it. I shook my head. You still don't get it. This isn't something that can be patched up. Tears welled in her eyes. I was scared, okay? I didn't know what to do. Scared of what? I asked. Standing up to your parents? Or just scared that siding with me would mess up your perfect family image? She didn't answer. She just stood there, crying, waiting for me to say something to make it all better. But I couldn't. Please, she whispered. Don't end it like this. I'll talk to them. I'll make them apologize. Just don't walk away. I looked her straight in the eyes. It's not just about Walter and Gloria, Camilla. It's about you. You sat there last night and let them disrespect my mother, our mother. And you laughed. That's who you showed me you are. Her face crumbled. The reality finally hit her. A few weeks later, on a Saturday, I was cleaning out my mom's keepsake box, something I'd held on to since she passed. It was full of little personal things she loved. Her church necklace, a pair of pearl earrings, and the one item that meant the most, a delicate gold locket passed down from my grandmother. My mom had given it to me right before she died. Said, one day, you'll know who to give this to. But that day, the locket wasn't there. I tore through the whole box, checked every drawer, every corner of my apartment. Nothing. Then it clicked. The only person who'd been in my place recently, besides close family, was Camilla. She dropped by a few days after the breakup to return the engagement ring, asked to use the bathroom before she left. I hadn't thought anything of it at the time, but now it all made sense. I grabbed my phone and sent her a message. Did you take the locket from my mom's keepsake box? Her reply came a few minutes later. What are you talking about? I wasn't buying the act. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The gold locket my mom left me, it's missing. You're the only one who's been in my place. There was a long pause before she finally responded. I borrowed it. I wanted something of hers. Something to feel close to you. She borrowed something sacred and kept it for herself. I called her right away. When she picked up, she already sounded defensive, like she was the one being attacked. It's not a big deal, she said. I was going to give it back. Not a big deal? I exploded. That locket's been in my family for generations. It's not a charm necklace. It's my mother's legacy. How could you think taking it was okay? I wanted to feel connected to you, she said. She started crying again, but I wasn't interested in comforting her. Where is it? I demanded. At my parents' house, she admitted through sobs. I didn't want to lose it, so I left it there. That was it. You took something that doesn't belong to you. Something with meaning you'll never understand. And you left it with the very people who insulted her memory. Unbelievable. I'm sorry, she said. Too late, I said. I'm coming to get it. Now. An hour later, I was standing at Walter and Gloria's front door. I was beyond furious. Ready for a fight if it came to that. Gloria answered. Her fake, polite expression vanished the moment she saw me. Noah, she said, cautious. What are you doing here? I'm here for my mom's locket. Camilla told me it's here. Gloria's face shifted from surprise to something closer to irritation. Camilla took that? Why would she? Just get it, I interrupted. She narrowed her eyes but stepped aside and let me in. A few minutes later, Camilla came down the stairs holding the locket in her hand. Her face was a mess of tears, but all I saw was that locket dangling between her fingers like it was just another accessory. Here, she said quietly, holding it out. I snatched it from her hand and looked it over, making sure it was really the one. It was. I stuffed it in my pocket. As I turned to leave, she called after me. Wait. Noah, please. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just trying to keep it safe. You stole from me, Camilla, I said without raising my voice. From my mother. After everything. Like what you'd already done wasn't enough. and I walked out. In the days that followed, I erased her from my life. I blocked her number, deleted every message, and cut off any path she might use to reach me. No more second-guessing. I was done with her parents, and with all the chaos they dragged into my world. Calling off the wedding was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I'd stood up for myself, for my mom, and for the kind of values she lived by. And as painful as it was to walk away from someone I once loved, I knew I'd done what needed to be done. I chose respect. I chose truth. And I never looked back.